Listen, everyone, you cannot imagine the pain that we just went through to try to do a Taking Back Sunday episode, and I absolutely just took the piss out of it. It was so bad, Pat actually had to stop me and recommend that we don't try any further. So
the audio will never be released. It'll never see the light of day. Tom's being too hard on himself, as always. It wasn't that bad, but we're going to try to redo that one again next week. And we had to shift gears.
And what you're going to get this week is the episode you've all been waiting for, the Pat-only episode. Pat actually assigned me homework in order to get ready for the Taking Back Sunday episode. So while Pat is recording, I'm going to be watching Fight Club and listening to Pat talk. What is going on, everybody? I'm Tom.
And I'm Pat.
We're best friends, and you're listening to the Reminiscent Podcast.
We could joke about how far we got into the next week when we do the Taking Back Sunday episode. We can joke about the first thing that got us off on the foot that kind of led us here. We've been talking about me just riffing about Weezer, specifically Weezer from the years 2001 to 2010 since we started the show, and we've never needed it, and we probably should have done it by now. But I don't know why this comedy of errors has led us to this, but the goal is Tom's going to chime in with whatever Weezer takes he's got in the tank. I think there are two and a half tops. He's going to roll the die to start the draft. I'm going to draft for Tom. So I'm drafting against myself. The goal will be to put together an 8-track Weezer mixtape, specifically music they released between the years 2001 and 2010, the era of music we cover on the show. And whoever wins. But I'm not gonna slouch for Tom. I'm gonna try to beat myself. And this is like I'm doing like a community rewatch.
Oh, I'm watching it for the first time.
Oh, it's tremendous. This is basically Abed studying Nick Cage trapped in his room. I'm definitely going to try to get deep and defeat my own inner psyche in terms of which would be the better mixtape. So hopefully you enjoy this draft of me versus Tom versus myself.
Versus Mardonna versus Elvis.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. All right. So you can guess the die roll for your team.
All right. I'm going to guess evens, and I've got my 2 dice here. They are actually, I don't know if I've told you, it's pretty cool. They're like wood dice that are laser cut, and they have this little marble in the middle.
They're weighted just so, my dude.
All right, here we go.
That's the best part of any draft. That is legitimately my favorite part.
You know, I'll give you the choice. I have some rose gold stainless steel dice that I got for D&D. Would you prefer that I roll those? There's a little bit more weight to them.
Yeah, this is heavy. This is real. This is the one we've been waiting for. This is me talking for an hour. Let's do it. Let's pull out all the stops.
Let me rearrange my desk. And I'm filming this, by the way. So I got my camera on. I'm filming the dice roll for our Patreon, so our Patreon supporters will see.
Filming himself watching the movie in prep for next week's episode. Again, this was designed. Tom had a tough week at work, so we are trying to make this as easy as possible on him. This is something we're both willingly doing. Don't act like this is like charity or anything. This is also something I want to do, so just to see if I could. So thanks for hanging in there, everybody.
All right, here we go. I need absolute silence.
Strong.
So I rolled 7 dice. I have a 2, a 3, so 5, 11, 16, 17, 22, 29, and a 0. So I rolled a 29. Photo in the show notes. And
I was going to say.
So I lost.
Yep. Okay. So that means my team gets to pick in the snake draft era, or the option. I'm gonna choose to pick 2 and 3. So that means your team picks first. And I'm just going to come out here and say, okay, hi, my name's Tom. I'm drafting for Tom's team. I have the first pick. Pat, you think you can outsmart me by choosing to go 2-3, but why don't you just wait just a GD second and let me do this first pick? I'm going to pick Island in the Sun off Green, which, lest we forget, was released in 2001 and is totally in play for the rules of this game. Let's not pretend like them playing Hash Pipe and Island in the Sun wasn't one of the best SNL two-song duos off of an album. In probably SNL Live studio history, in my humble opinion, it's got to be up there. Both those songs are incredible. Pat, this is me speaking as Tom here. Pat, I know you and your wife technically danced to a Buddy Holly song at your wedding, but the slow song after that, when you invited everybody up, was Island in the Sun by Weezer. It was perfect. Obviously, you love Weezer so much. That's why we're here. This is me speaking as Tom. I'll try to figure out a less confusing way to do this as we go about. But Island in the Sun has to be your pick. Pat, do you have any thoughts on the song? Tom, I totally have thoughts on the song.
We cannot keep
Island
doing this, dude.
Island in the Sun is, before iTunes, you never really knew which songs were your favorites or which ones you were actually pounding into the ground. I think this and Miss You by Blink and like an old version of a Windows 95, I reference a lot on the show, that crashed, and I lost all my local, I guess, EPs from going to those shows at the Hangout in Forward Hall and stuff. But Island in the Sun, crushed everyone 3 times over. I'm pretty sure. I think Miss You was in second place, kind of close, but no, it was just lapped everyone. Love the pick, Tom. I think I still can beat you at this point, but here, okay, let's go. I'm going to pick second here. In Green, underrated album. Very underrated album. Let's just get to it, right? Let's just quit messing around and let's just really try to win this thing.
Let me ask you first, Tom. Why is that your favorite, Tom? Island in the Sun?
So this is Tom asking Tom why he picked Island in the Sun first. And as Tom, it is my belief that I'm mostly going to be sticking to actual chart hits and stuff that is more popular. So I know that is a very good Weezer song. I'm not a Weezer fan, which is why we haven't tried this ever to do this. So I'm just going to pick some of the more popular ones, the ones I've heard of. And I know I can put together a strong mixtape because I think we can all just sit here and agree that Weezer is a very famous band that's come out with a lot of music that's been enjoyed by millions and billions and has charted and everything over the years, the past 3 decades, right? So Island in the Sun is a song most people are aware of. I think it's a strong first pick. I think fake Tom would think that Tom would think that.
I'll allow it.
Sure. Sure. I wasn't sure how much attention you were going to be paying, considering Fight Club would be playing in the background in preparation for next week's episode. So here we go. Okay. This is me actually picking. Legitimately, I've wanted to do this for so long because it's not like you can't pick Island in this. It's not like picking Island in the Sun first is wrong. But I think if we're making a case for non-Pinkerton, non-Blue related Weezer discussions, you have to take some of their lesser respected albums seriously. There was an SNL sketch last year where Leslie Jones and Matt Damon were fighting over old school Weezer, pre-Pinkerton Weezer and post-Pinkerton Weezer, and Matt Damon played the character of this guy who really was vocal about his love for late career Weezer. And for people who are moan every time Weezer comes out with a new album, that's pretty bad. I have to say, who are these annoying army of people sticking up for Weezer still? You know what I mean? I'm not sure they're as vocal as everybody would think. So, just from the corner, I guess I'd moderately suggest that Red was pretty good and Troublemaker was one of their better album openers. My Name is Jonas is obviously their best album opener, but I think if you go and you turn on Red, which came out in 2008, Troublemaker, actually Tyler James, a guy from the Erie scene, if you're listening to the show and you grew up in Erie with us, he did a lot of bands, Radio Empire. Tom helped me out with this Christian band that was huge, in 2010 maybe.
Still Frame Sky,
exactly. I remember they were warming up for a gig, and he was pointing out to all his bandmates how to play their instruments or whatever, which was kind of not that it was the thing of the band, but he was a talented guy. Anyway, he just was pointing into the frets and be play this real quick, and they warmed up and just flawlessly crushed Troublemaker. And I looked up, I was like, oh, because that album had only come out a week before, and he looked down, he's like, oh, you like Weezer? And it's the only thing we had in common, but I think he kind of knew I at least had owned a pair of headphones or something, so I was glad he kind of also liked Weezer. It's nice to know you're not alone, I guess. I dare you to listen to that song and not be super hype. Keep it on the up at the end, the lyrics, the beat, everything. It's a good song. Good album opener. That would be my first overall pick.
Okay. Can I tell you about my Tyler James story?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, we had a few. We toured together for a little bit, and our bands played a ton of shows, but one of my favorite memories is before we knew each other, we knew of each other. I was going to shows and I worshipped his band, and I don't know how I found his phone number. I think I had someone's phone number who knew him, and I texted them asking for Tyler's phone number. And out of the freaking blue, I call Tyler James. I had to like make him aware of who I was because he didn't quite know me. And I asked him where he got his haircut because he had like the best scene haircut. And like he was so cool about it. He was just like, "Oh yeah, no, that's totally fine. Yeah, this girl Erin at Coventina Day Spa in Edinburgh." And then for years, I drove 22 miles to get my haircut at Coventina Day Spa.
Coventina Day Spa.
But it was funny. She did like all the scene kid hair, and it was like this really nice salon. I mean, it was a legitimate spa, and just all the scene kids got their hair cut there. But he was so cool about it. I was like 16, and he was like 21 or something, and just like, yeah, no problem, man. Erin, she'll hook you up.
Nice. I think that speaks to the power of word of mouth in terms of supporting local businesses and everything like that. That's
For
a nice
sure.
story.
Anyway, back to
shout out
Weezer.
shout out to Coventina Day Spa. And Tom, I know you're listening and recording this and everything, so feel free to chime in. I'm just operating under the assumption that your week has been so bad that you have actually dialed in the favor to have me talk about Weezer for an hour. So yeah, by all means, if you're actually here and doing it, let's just make it happen. But for real, my pick, my actual second pick is going to come off the 2009 release Ratitude. I tried to talk about this song on the show a couple weeks ago. I couldn't get the name right, mostly because it's a really annoying, stupid name. And the music video is pretty brutal. They're like, the band members are fighting over a girl and they end up like cutting each other with buzzsaws and stuff. It's odd. It's off. But it's called Parentheses. I forget where the parentheses are. I even tried to look it up and I saw it like different ways in different places. If you're wondering if I want you to, I want you to. And the song's either called I Want You To or the I Want You To is the parentheses part. Anyway, crazy hook. It's one of those things where like White Album's not eligible here because we're talking about the 2000s specifically, but it's kind of like King of the World off the White Album. Like as much as you want to hate on the Teal album, for example, or that album of covers they came out with last year and Africa ended up charting oddly. You know, you kind of hear the hook and you're like, okay, obviously there's a fan base for a reason. There's this and that. Like Rivers is obviously a legend for a reason. It's kind of these hooks. They start to stack up after a while. And after seeing Weezer about 7 times in my life, you start to wonder, like, you see Hold Steady. You want him to open up with Positive Jam and roll into Stuck Between Stations. Like, and I went to see them and they did that. And I was like, wow, this is the perfect like use of their stuff. Going to see Weezer anymore, it sounded kind of like, which stuff do you save for the opening and the encore and all that? We talked about that a little bit on the My Chemical Romance episode. Like, do you, like, my dream is to build a set list that doesn't include Pinkerton or Blue. And I think in that set list, you'd open with Troublemaker off Red. And I think I Want You To off Ratitude is in the encore selection. It's just snappy. It's catchy. It's like impossibly catchy. It's hard to like live with how this keeps happening. It's like Jesse Pinkman in Breaking Bad saying, like, he can't keep getting away with this. Like, if you're mad about it, blame all the hit. There's at least one. It's kind of like the Coldplay method. As long as there's one banger on each album, then you just stay famous, right? So, like, it's kind of like a weird system that you can just continue to do it. Anyway, it seems unfair, but it's real and it's good. So those are my first 2 picks, which puts 2 picks back into Tom's section. I'm going to stop pretending I'm Tom. I'm just going to say it's me picking for Tom's team because that was too confusing to begin with. And Tom, you can chime in if you'd like. I don't know if he muted himself. It sounds like he did. Okay, so I'm assuming he's at least part of the way through the movie Fight Club at this point. This is a fun exercise. I'm going to go legitimately, double down on the fact that if I went into this draft, I would try to beat Tom with like what I actually thought was the best mixtape. I should have picked this song in my 2 picks, but I think if he's just going off of like a quick Google of stuff that did well, I think he would have stuck to his strategy of going heavy green because that's as close to early Weezer as you get. I think he picks up Hash Pipe, which I got too high on my own stuff, picking other stuff that I personally like. I think he's got a really strong first 2 couple picks with Island in the Sun and Hash Pipe. Green, I don't know why people don't talk about it more. It's short, it's easy. There's like a SpongeBob meme where the SpongeBob, he like rounded out his edges and he's clean and everybody should like him now thing. And Rivers retweeted it one time. Pinkerton was such a gut punch. And then they came out with Green and it was snappy. It was like the most wannabe Beach Boys, Beatles, repetitive chord, catchy pop stuff possible. But you're kind of brushing with that's kind of a broad stroke thing there, because Hashpipe also rocks possibly harder than anything they've ever put out, right? Like it's got a commanding energy to it. The sumo wrestler video is just awesome and cool. Like, I don't know, there was like, they went through a few bass. It was like a Spinal Tap thing where they went through like 7 bassists in like a short amount of time there before they landed on Scott, the current guy. So I think, I got high on my own supply. I didn't pick Hashpipe. I should have. Tom gets it. And I think he's off to an early lead just going heavy green because it's an underrated record overall. But I think, and Tom, chime in if you're listening to this and you would not have done this, I think he would have gone off Make Believe and picked Beverly Hills because it's something we covered at that living room show that we reference a lot. And I don't know, Tom, if you actually legitimately want to chime in at this point. I think you would have picked that in your first 3 at least, because I don't know how many Weezer songs you actually know. That's also kind of one of the more popular ones. Feel free to take it away if you're listening. But it's pretty easy chord progression thing, very catchy, obviously. But it depends how much you respect Make Believe, because there's a lot of dudes I went to college with who went to college before me, I should say, who are like people who worked at the paper I went to at the college I went to, who they are huge on Maladroit. And they're like, hey, it's the album that came out when we were the right age to need something like that. Who get pissed when you diss Maladroit, and then people like to shit on Make Believe, but we were just that much younger. Like one came out in 02, one came out in 05, and the people I argue about this with are 3 years older than me, so it's like, really, we're just enjoying the same very moderate to below average Weezer albums, but we were the age where we had enough time to dig deep into shit that maybe wasn't that good or worth our time, so really we're both the fools here. So I think Tom would go ahead and stick with the popular, which I can't blame him for, and he has a pretty good record going so far. I think he picks Beverly Hills. Tom, is that accurate? Am I like getting you so far pretty close?
I would probably come around to picking that only because, like you said, I don't know that many songs. I don't think I would have picked it here, but it was a very important song. Was that freshman year of high school? Yeah. Yeah, we played that one a lot. I don't think it's aged as well, and I don't love it as much, but it would be in here, but maybe one of the later picks.
It was weird because they had this music video for Pork and Beans, I think, off of Red, which again came out in 08, which was, it was kind of like Chocolate Rain, Tejon Day era YouTube. YouTube was kind of like at its beginning peak. And Rivers was wearing cowboy hats and shaving his facial hair into a mustache and things like that. He started covering MGMT and Lady Gaga at shows. I saw him at the Ohio State Fair in Columbus with Motion City Soundtrack one year. It was very fun. He was jumping on trampolines and shit. It was kind of crazy, but it was kind of like I'm famous. I can do what I want. Like I wrote blues, so you can't really say anything. And that's still true. It's kind of weird, like case studies of bands who their best record is their first record, right? It's kind of a weird thing. But yeah, I think Beverly Hills is just one of those, like, I'm famous, I'm going to pretend to be it's kind of like when Taylor Swift does her whole blank space caricature, right? Rivers is really just this shy dude who was raised on, like, a commune and is pretty soft-spoken, I think. But there's this, like, strangely horny megastar that is, like, his B personality, and I think Beverly Hills was kind of maybe the birth of that, where there's, like, this alter ego where he sings about stuff he can't pull off, and leads to stuff like the Black Album, which was released a couple years ago, I should say. Stuff that shouldn't exist, but does, because there is like a level of, there's been a lot of, during the coronavirus thing where everyone's at home, rest in peace, Kobe and all that. But they were talking about the old Cavs championship on some of the, Cleveland sports radio shows I listen to. And, they were talking about the Kyrie Irving's role and stuff like that, and how he made the big shot that won it for everybody. And if you listen to the show, this is my show, so I'm going to talk about Cleveland sports for like 2 seconds just to prove a point. But like, they talked about Kyrie hitting that shot and winning in 2016 for the Cavs, bringing the championship to the city of Cleveland, who hadn't had us, major sports championships in over 50 years and everything like that. He could have only done it if he had that, quote, mama mentality. That's why I said R.I.P. Kobe, right? There's like this whole like gene in you that would, gives you the chutzpah to even pull certain things off. I think Rivers has always had that in him, but they were just like the nerds who shredded in 94, right? But now that they are famous, he's allowed to like indulge that id. And I don't think he's done anything too egregious other than write some of the weirdest things, like 8-minute long songs called Greatest Man Who Ever Lived on Red and things like that, kind of just straight up copying a trope Green Day had done on American Idiot a couple years prior. It's kind of interesting to see him kind of indulge that urge. It hasn't led to very good things, but was he supposed to be just a shy guy with a shitty haircut, standing motionless at the mic forever? One of the most interesting things in my life has been watching them on the Memories tour. I was in college, my sister and I. It was like saved up as much money as we could, and it was our like birthday and Christmas present to each other for like years to like go to 2 shows. Basically, we saw them in Chicago and we saw them in Las Vegas on that Memories tour, and they played a bunch of the most recent hits, but then they would play Blue and Pinkerton in full. It was kind of when, not that it was new, but there was kind of been a resurgence of playing full albums on tour and stuff, which is weird that Blink wasted Enema on a Tomless tour, but we can get into that on a different day. But they went back, and it was interesting because he put the cowboy hat on for some of the Red songs, and then they go back. And by the time they made it back to Blue, he was standing, motionless at the mic. Some of the Pinkerton, Bare Your Soul stuff. It was interesting to see kind of he wasn't always mimicking Lady Gaga and MGMT, just like roaming the stage like a strange, famous, horny weirdo, right? Like he came from a very nerdy, weird commune, unsure of himself place to begin with. But of course, there had to be that to wrap the Cavs thing in, some of that Mamba mentality to even pull some of that off. So just what happens when, I don't know, it's weird seeing people like some of the dramas my wife and I watch on TV where like, for example, I don't know, we were watching this bar rescue episode before we talked to some old friends that we knew in Albuquerque, and there was this old bar we went to that could never stay open, and this guy convinced some finance guy in town to open up a bar, and it was just a show. The one guy didn't pay enough attention to what he was putting his money into, and the guy who convinced him to open the bar was awful at his job. And it was just kind of like, people get to grow up and just like cause so much damage. These just like, you could make money, have a bank account, do sex stuff, and just like the repercussions of which are terrifying, right? Like everyone just has keys to cars and shit. Like you could do, like adult humans just have access to so much random power. But I do think Rivers would have been famous in some capacity on a lot of the, we talk about the like alternate universe theory a lot on this show. I'm sure at least 70% of the universe is involved him being in a pretty successful band. I don't know if Weezer's like 55% of those alternate realities or not, but you could argue that there's something in him that allows him to do what he does best. Anyway, because indulging that id, he came out with Beverly Hills, which is a pretty shitty Weezer hit. I wouldn't put it in the encore or open with it or anything like that in terms of kind of their, farewell tour or anything like that. Not that that's happening anytime soon, but obviously they're content on being weirdly and strangely productive, but maybe not efficient, if that makes sense. Okay, so Tom has another pick. I think he's just going to double down on the Googling and go Perfect Situation. I'm going to say underrated music video, another kind of radio hit off of that 2005 record, Make Believe. Tom, feel free to chime in if this is something that you want to dispute. So far, I'm going pretty chalk for you in terms of things that had charted and things like that. Perfect Situation, it depends if you, I actually kind of just want to put people who grew up just in different, I guess that's kind of anyway, I don't want to get too wild here, but yeah, I would say the t-shirts with Wheeze on it, they paint the R's on them. It's just a kind of a whiny record. He's saying, a lot on that record. I'd be interested to hear people argue why Maladroit is superior or why Make Believe is superior. I don't think either of them are that stellar. Tom, I heard your audio come back on if you wanted to tag in for a second.
Never heard this song before.
There's the pitch, slow and straight. All you had to do was swing. But I'm 0, but not. You never heard that? Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself or something. You've never let me talk for this long, so now I'm getting self-conscious by my own voice.
It's great, man. You're killing it. I'm already making the Instagram graphics for this episode, so I could get used to this.
You're not watching Fight Club? At least lie. At least lie to me and tell me that we're going to have a good Taking Back Sunday episode. Lie to the good people that listen to this show and tell them we're going to have a coherent Taking Back Sunday episode next week.
It's going to be incredible.
Oh my God. We will have both been able to reference scenes from the movie Fight Club. Sorry. Okay, so Tom picks Perfect Situation in my head, in the simulation, right? Real curious, Tom, which have I gotten right?
Did you say Hash Pipe? Or no, that was your pick.
I did. No,
For me.
It was you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we did the Hella Mega draft episode before. So I would just say pick whatever songs I picked on that.
I don't remember half the stuff we say on the show. I listen on Fridays and I'm like, man, I hope neither of us planned on running for public office, quite frankly. How many other than Hash Pipe do you know? Help steer this a little bit. What would you have snapped up?
Well, think of stuff that our old band covered.
Right. Okay. Which a lot of it doesn't qualify for. Pinkerton doesn't qualify. So I don't think. So that's why you didn't. That's why we did this. I think the way we're doing it.
El Scorcho.
Right. No, it's on Pinkerton. Which again, this is why this is such an indulgent exercise because I'm not discussing Pinkerton or Blue at all.
No, we were in high school, so this was before 2009. El Scorcho came out then.
No, man. El Scorcho was on Pinkerton, which came out in the 90s. It was their sophomore record that notoriously dropped like a rock. I think we covered a lot of Weezer just because being near me, I think is to blame, but also is the reason we covered Beverly Hills, which is not something that we're that proud of in the end of the day. But no, I think I was just listening to Weezer a lot. No, it wasn't a recent Weezer tune.
Oh, it was new to me, so I just thought it was a new song. That's really funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's why this is such a, like, hey, thanks for coming to the Weezer episode, everybody. Know all the Weezer stuff you love. I'm not going to talk about any of it for a full hour, all right? Buckle up. This argument is, of course, saved by the fact that Green was released in 2001, but I'll get back to the draft and let Tom kind of relax again. He has earned some time. Luckily,
I'm listening.
His business is... I was going to say, luckily, your business is going well. That's why you have all this extra work tossed on your plate. I'm trying to keep track of everything in my own head, but I think the ball's back in my court, and you've put together a pretty impressive first 4 songs, if I do say so myself.
Thanks, man.
But, hey, no problem. Let's just relax here for a second. Let's just relax. Let's not get too carried away. I'm going to go ahead and get confrontational about the fact that you picked Perfect Situation and say that's not the best song where he goes, kind of yelp sings into the mic, and say that Peace was the best song on Make Believe, released in 2005. If you listen to the show, I've always, and I'm going to release a very embarrassing secret about seeing Peace live. I always on the show, I'm like, man, I've always tweeted at Weezer begging them to play Peace live. And it's a song, it's probably my favorite off Make Believe, to be honest. Perfect Situation is a fine song. It's a fun music video, the t-shirts, the whole, kind of like weird mid-emo. It was kind of like the most, well, Pinkerton might be the most emo Weezer record, but like it's a very 2000s record to release, I guess, with a lot of black and white art and everything like that. But actually, I saw them at Cleveland State. My sister was going to Case Western at the time, and I visited, and they went, I don't know if it was technically called the Foozer Tour, but they were touring with the Foo Fighters, who I regrettably just thought they were going to play Nirvana songs. I had no comprehension at this age of, what would it have been? At the age of 15, that, we make the joke on the show a lot where Miss You by Blink-182 came on the radio one day in the car, and my mom was like, hey, is this, the song you like? And I was like, they're still a band? I just thought they were this like relic from the 70s or something. So I was an idiot, basically. Anyway, I went and didn't listen to any Foo Fighter music leading into this show. I had no idea what they were playing. Weezer covered Big Me at that show, which is memorable. They played Island in the Sun. Rivers did that thing where he grabbed an acoustic guitar for one of the encores, and the spotlight came down. He ended up being in the middle of the crowd and stuff. It was fun. And they played Peace at that show, and I have for years campaigned that I had never seen that, and I had always just needed to see it, because that's like one of my favorite, I don't even know if it's technically a deep cut. I guess it would be. It's weird. It's like, does deep cut have to be good, or can deep cuts just be stuff that and you're like begging to find somebody that's willing to discuss this shit with you? It's hard to say. Anyway, sorry, I'll try to keep the swears down so the edits are easier for Tom. Again, busy week. I'm going to pick Peace just because he picked Perfect Situation, and I wanted to make my point that I think is the best song on that album. Anyway, okay. And the secret's out. I have seen it live. I'm just a dummy. So there you go. That puts an end to that, although I'd like to see it live again. The 8th or 9th or 10th time I see Weezer, depending. Lord knows they're not slowing down. The last time I saw them in Austin, actually, they used Island in the Sun as like this weapon to readjust the show. Like, I don't know if there was like a sound issue or the crowd was still filing in, but the venue was kind of intimate, but it hadn't filled up yet. And they had kind of botched the first 2 songs. They didn't like really come out firing on all cylinders. So Rivers just like, it was weird to kind of see a band panic who had been around for that long, but they had obviously been in that situation before. And they pulled out Island in the Sun and they just played it real early in the show when usually it's kind of a late show, like sing along. And everyone was like, oh, everyone knew this, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if it's a way that a band can read a crowd when you've been on the road for that long or something, but it felt like it wasn't going according to plan. And they used it as a tool to reset the room kind of. And then the show was much better from that point on. I wasn't sure if that was them aging or just doing what they do when a show starts off bad. I had never seen them not kill it. Again, though, a lot of the times I had seen them, it was on that Memories tour where everyone was there specifically to sing word for word along to Blue and Pinkerton. So what are you going to do? I just thought from a live performance standpoint, I don't know if I'm right about that. It just seemed to be the case. And it just seemed like an interesting thing to see your favorite band kind of flounder like that, but then figure it out and kind of readjust mid-show, just doing what they do best, I guess. Okay, so my next pick is going to be... I don't really want to let Tom win, although I don't know what more logical Tom picks there are, because only one of these he's even aware of technically. So I'm trying to think of what he would have Googled. Again, this was all an hour ago, early in the evening, we tried to record the Taking Back Sunday Cute Without the E episode, which is coming next week. Tom just had to watch Fight Club a little bit and catch up on some of the stuff, which it's not a big deal at all. Again, he's a busy guy. Started his own business like a year ago. It's going well. Super proud of him. That's why we do this show in the first place. If you listen to the show, you probably know that already, but if not, now you know. Anyway, so we're here. He wouldn't have known any of these. He's letting me do this, which is insane to begin with. But I don't know if I should save this so he has the better mixtape at the end, or if I actually am trying to compete with myself. And I think I'm actually trying to compete, although other me kind of wants to beat original me for being too pompous about the whole situation. I think if it was me, I know Peace would have been like a weak choice and just trying to make a point, and I've been playing it cute the whole way. I think I'd probably pick Memories off of Hurley, released in 2010, which was, I think, paired with the release, maybe not paired, but went with the release of, I really hope it was Jackass 3D. It might have been just Jackass 2 or something. I forget the timeline of that Jackass universe, I guess. I'm not super intimately familiar with it. Just watched a lot of friends, older brothers, destroy their bodies trying to jump off piers into Lake Erie down in the neighborhood I grew up in, which wasn't like nice lakefront property. It just was lakefront property where like GE would dump shit down creeks into the water and stuff. And that was where our dogs swam and we like skip stones and stuff. So pretty healthy. Rust Belt is a dope place to live. My dream vacation, here's a quick Erie Rust Belt side note while Tom's letting me do this, which again, I'm not sure why, is to go to Detroit, travel south into Canada across the river to what I believe is Windsor, and go see an Erie Otters have the only non-Canadian team, the only American team in the Ontario Hockey League. It's like this youth hockey league where has only, it produces NHL talent, basically. It's like a premier youth league. Anyway, my dream is to go, and this is the most Rust Belt dumb thing ever that wouldn't matter ever, but is to get enough people to make a nuisance in a small OHL stadium, go to Windsor, wear Otters jerseys, and just be boisterous, just, cheer, for our team as if we care a lot, which kind of, we've won the cup, whatever cup it is. Not that intimately familiar with the youth leagues of...
It was 2004 and I was there for that game. Let me chime in on the important facts of this episode.
Have you actually been to an Otters game?
My Uncle John used to have season tickets and I'd go to like 2 games a week for years. Yeah.
Oh, back when they won the first time, you mean, that cup?
Yeah, I mean, I was there for the 2004 when they won the, whatever the cup was called. I forget against who.
Yeah, well, they won it again recently. Connor,
I'm
not that big of a hockey guy. Anyway, they've won it twice in the last, 20 years. And my dream is to show up in Windsor and just talk crazy shit. That's like my dream vacation, is to go to a technically international destination that is just another shitty Great Lakes region town that is super Rust Belt and wouldn't matter, and everyone... anyway, to put in perspective, we would get a lot of Canadian coins in our money in Erie. I don't know, it's an odd place to live. It's slowly setting in the older I get that not everyone got more snow than most Alaskan towns, or had generally a lot of Canadian change in their change stores and everything like that. So weird place. Talking about the Rust Belt for a quick second. Welcome to the Weezer episode. I think my other pick would have been, let's see here. Oh, yes, Memories off of Hurley in 2010. I'm going to steal that from Tom, which means he would come back, I think, with the charter. Again, I think there's a quick Google scenario for him, but I also want him to win. So I think he might go off 2002's Maladroit and go with Dope Nose, which, if I'm doing the non-Pinkerton Blue Weezer show set list, it's either Troublemaker or Dope Nose as the show opener. High energy, quick, everyone's paying attention at this point. Oh man, Troublemaker's almost too good to burn at the first track, but you want to it's tough. That's why I love this thought exercise, which is relevant to no one. But yeah, I think, if you can't open with My Name is Jonas, I think Troublemaker might have to be it. But again, Dope Nose would be maybe the encore opener or just the opener, depending on where the debate went. I say debate as if there would be a second person who would be willing to do this. But I think he'll stick with that. Okay, dudes that went to college the year this came out, as opposed to when I got to when Make Believe was a record for my coming of age stuff. Is Dope Nose the hit? ? I was too young legitimately to know. I was 12. So is Dope Nose the hit? A. B, give me your favorites off that, right? Like what I've written down here is I might pick Slob later for one of these, but people who really defend Maladroit, I hope you could just understand that people who defend Make Believe and are that same amount of years younger than you, like what are we really fighting over here, right? So I guess Dope Nose is the hit because I think it technically has a music video to go along with it. It's also only like a minute and 10 seconds long. It's obviously a little longer than that, but it's just one of those Rivers hooks that works. But at what, like he just grew up, played guitar, did a bunch of damage, ended up covering No Scrubs on one of his recent cover albums. And it's just, he's allowed to do that as an adult. He's just doing all this damage and he just wrote Dope Nose. But like, what are you getting from that? Like the rest of that album is a slog, man, but not like a bad slog, like an emotionally draining situation. Like it's a tough thing to endure. Artsy cover, fun, right? I probably should be talking about Maladroit more, which came out in 2002. They were strangely productive in the aughts, always strangely productive. It was like Blue, on top of the world. Pinkerton, everybody's sad. We're going to wait a little bit. I'm going to go to Harvard, and then I am going to release the most bizarre collection of music for the next 10 years, next 20 years. It's going to stop making sense. We're going to legitimately cover like, people who took comfort in the fact that they would never do a white album or a black album because of the Beatles and Jay-Z. No, they have very recently. They are almost putting out a record a year. It's kind of disturbing. Although next time Tom's in a pinch, coming for the 2011-2020 Weezer draft for sure. But okay, I think Tom would pick Dope Nose coming up next. I actually would hope that he would be writing some of these down because that's usually his role in these drafts. So I'm kind of forgetting where we are here. But he does have another pick coming up. I'm going to say that just based off a quick Google, he would have seen that Pork and Beans was technically the quote-unquote single off of Red, which was released in 2008. But it's as much the single as, Everything Will Be All Right in the End. Back to the Shack was the single. I mean, it was a song that they wrote that loosely referenced the band they used to be in the 90s. But there was better stuff to be mined from each of those records. Like I mentioned, Troublemaker off of Red and say... Eulogy for a Rock Band off of Everything Will Be All Right in the End, for example. Like, don't just take the surface 90s nostalgia rock hit off of a late Rivers album, I think is what I'm trying to argue here, right? Anyway, Tom would probably take Pork and Beans. And to be honest, I can't blame him. I can't blame the man. Tom, do you mind chiming back in and let me know where we're at and how many songs we've at least chosen and help me out just a touch in that department?
I have no idea, man. Let's give it another 5 minutes.
Oh, cool. Where are we at?
40 minutes.
Oh, I'm glad I'm starting to get through my list because you had asked me to keep it to a tight 40. Let's do this. I think Tom picked first and he just picked 2. So I would pick one more, right?
Sure.
Let's put this out of his misery. Tom's yawning. This was just meant to be a thought experiment anyway. Let's do something. You can count them up later if you want. If not, nobody cares. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Let us know what you want to hear. We're super bad about taking requests. We don't write them down. And honestly, if we haven't heard the record before, we already botched the Jimmy Eat World Futures album, so we're a little hesitant to take on new shit anyway. So just bear with us. We're doing our best. Next week, legitimately wheelhouse episode coming. We've mapped everything out till June. This is just, you caught us. There's a reason this is happening to your ears right now. And if you're still here, oh my God. go outside. I guess you could listen while taking a walk or something, but it's kind of like that SNL bit where, ESPN Classic, come on, man, go play with your kids. You know what I mean? Anyway, sorry, not to diss our own show while Tom's also listening and I'm listening as well. I'm talking on it right now. Okay, so let's just pretend that the math points to me picking one other song. I'll just jump into my honorable mentions. I think The Other Way off of Make Believe deserves better. I think Tripping Down the Freeway off of Ratitude deserves better. I think Get Dangerous off of Red, whatever, Hard Songs is fine. Red, I think overall, just put some respect on it. Troublemakers, their second best album opener. Red deserves your respect. I didn't include anything from Death to False Metal, also released in 2010. Hurley was also released in 2010. Let's just relax, man. Rivers, let's give us, what do you want? What did you want to happen with Death to False Metal? I guess that's my main question. Okay, Slob off Maladroit. Whew, heavy. It's a heavy record. I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying it's a lot. It's a lot to work through. You know what I mean? Burnt jams like that. It's all fun. There's some fun parts, but I guess you could see why somebody would ask, why is this something you're sticking up so, heavily for? But I get it. We all get it, right? I already said The Other Way. Don't Let Go and Photograph. I think this is mostly a red and green, pro red and green pod, if I'm being quite honest. Don't Let Go and Photograph are the first two tracks off of 2001's Weezer Green album. Man, I gotta say, I think Green, people get pretty hung up on, Pinkerton and Blue being that good, but when stuff becomes canon or comes agreed upon, I don't know. Listen to Hashpipe, Island in the Sun, Don't Let Go. It's like, how much better of a start? What better A-side would you ask for? I guess I'm not sure. You tell me, right? Maladroit, I get. Make Believe, I get it. But it was the one that I grew up with. Technically, that I was the age of while they released it. I didn't have to just get CDs from my cousins and try to understand how they felt in '94 when I was 4. You know what I'm saying? So it's okay to try to understand the past, but then grow up and get Make Believe and be like, oh, this kind of fucking sucks. You know what I mean? You're born into an era where I don't know. The era we're talking about on the show, right? There's a lot of flaws with that. I think we addressed that weekly. Then you get that lineup of Make Believe, Ratitude, Hurley, Death to False Metal, and you're like, what the f***? That's why I was pretty glad when White and Everything Will Be All Right in the end came out, because it was fun social media teasing, things like that. I think they were both pretty strong records, but for a while there, obviously, they took some hits, right? I don't think anyone's going to parade around and be like, all of them are great. They're not. But I think I guess my main question to Weezer fans, if you're still listening to this, is would you see a show they did that didn't have any Pinkerton or Blue songs in it? I think what we learned here today is that you'd probably need some help from the White Album and Everything Will Be All Right in the end to want to stomach that. But they had a cruise in the middle of all this Rivers, Lady Gaga, MGMT, Wig stuff. There was a Weezer cruise for a few years. My sister and I had just got off of seeing shows, in Chicago and Las Vegas and everything, and we were pretty fucking close to going on the Weezer cruise, man. I think there was comedy. It was a little mini festival. It was when festivals were coming up on the rise and everything. This would have been around 2010 or something, which makes sense because they just shat Death to False Metals on everyone's faces. But yeah, they were doing a cruise. They were playing intimate B-side sessions and things like that. I think Adam Devine was one of the comedians one of the years when he was still on an up-and-comer on Workaholics before it was becoming huge and everything. Weezer got big enough to do a cruise. So it is what it is, man. I guess you just no one's forcing you to acknowledge it, I don't think. A lot of the rock magazines like to mention when Weezer things happen because you get the same Facebook comments, but I don't think anyone's really begging you to pay attention. So ease up, I guess. You could spend your time doing more productive stuff than saying late career Weezer isn't as good as early career Weezer. I think that's pretty known fact. That's what kind of was odd to me about the SNL sketch. It's I don't think that Matt Damon guy exists. I don't think anyone's parading around being fucking Hurley, just hear me out. No one's saying that. So relax. Rivers is still writing some good songs. Or if you get a 30-year period, you're going to have trouble feeling what that farewell tour set list is going to look like. But maybe that's a good problem to have. Anyway, Tom, I hope this makes this a lot easier for you. You only have to edit 4 instances of your voice track even coming in. I hope this is palatable. If not, I get it. Join us next week. If we have not been pimping next week's episode, if that's the only thing you get from this week, please just join us then. I'm okay with this. I'm happy with this. I didn't bring a pen, so I didn't cross anything out. I don't think I doubled up, but I forgot a couple things. But Greatest Man Who Ever Lived is odd. Go listen to the Red album. Go listen to the Green album. I like them. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much the only reason I came here today.
I'm glad that you got to do this. You've been kind of half joking, half been very serious about doing a solo Weezer episode the entire 3 years we've done this show.
You sent me a mic one day and was like, hey, I'm starting a podcast business. I want to have our own so we can practice this. And I said, okay. What was I going to send it back? Like, f you, man. Like, of course that wasn't going to happen. So, but of course, starting your own business isn't easy. There have been weeks where you've been slammed is the good word for it, right? So I was like, hey, man, if you ever need it, I will only talk about a third of Weezer's career and I'll go for an hour. I'm glad you said, hey, man, why don't you wrap it up? It's been 45 minutes. It's like, cool. Cool. Yeah, so we're at Pat records his own Weezer episode level of quarantine at the moment. I hope this brought you some entertainment. I hope this brought you some entertainment on a walk or something, or making breakfast. We have everything mapped out till July. We're going to start, we're back on track next time, but caught us at an off week. Thanks for being here. Tom, you want to close us out? Any thoughts? Anything at all?
A couple things. I mean, first of all, we should do a song of the week. Lots of cool stuff coming out, but I do.
Can you give two? I'm actually legitimately tired.
Yeah, Bad Snacks put out a new album last Friday called Neat Tape 2. The song Oh Shoot is very good off of that record. I've been enjoying that a lot. And I think this might have been from a TV show we were watching. The song I'm So by Andrew Applepie. It's a nice little electronic jam. It was from Dickinson. Oh my God. Okay. Dickinson, it's about Emily Dickinson, is probably one of the best TV shows I've seen in the past 10 years. And it is on Apple TV Plus, I believe, which is free for a year. I recommend everyone get Apple TV Plus because there's some great shows. And the show Dickinson, it's like this show about Emily Dickinson that's done from like a very modern viewpoint, and like Wiz Khalifa is in it, and John Mulaney, and tons of just amazing cast and crew and whatnot. So those two songs and Dickinson on Apple TV. And you know what? One more, McMillions on Hulu. Some people really love...
It's wild, dude.
Oh, yeah. Some people really love the murder mysteries or the missing people. Megan made fun of me the other day because I was like, I think white collar crime is my shit. And she's like, you mean you want to do white collar crime? I was like, no, watching documentaries about it. It is wild. It's about people.
Yeah, I haven't watched Tiger King because I watched McMillions. I'm like, I just need to space out there's too many hours. There's too many hours.
I haven't watched Tiger King either, but yeah, we're on episode 3 of 6. It's like a 6-hour documentary of people that hacked the Monopoly game at McDonald's. And I don't want to give anything away, but it's wild. And they could...
Yeah, it's not a single winner went to a random customer is the pitch, right?
Right. And it's a documentary, but if they cast and scripted this, they could not have done a better job. The people in the documentary are also kind of fucking insane, and it's a great watch for sure. So that's a lot of recommendations. We are...
you know what
we got
has
time,
been troubling about... I'm glad we did it this way this week because there's been a lot of like SNL, and I don't watch wrestling at all ever, but somebody gave me a login just to check out WrestleMania 2 weeks ago just because it was like something that was on TV, so I figured I'd try it. Everything that's live lately hasn't had an audience, so it's disturbingly silent behind the entertainment that's happening. So to try to go on like riffs and stuff this week while you had been muted and I couldn't hear you reacting to what I was saying was one of the weirdest experiences of my life. Because it's different if I was talking, I could hear you like, the whole point of the show is basically to amuse you, I guess, and have something audio you can edit so you can show people you do it well. But when you were muted, it was like, I don't even know if I care about these Weezer opinions. Like I've waited so long to voice them, but now I'm like, this is we're digging deep for this stuff. So anyway, if you have, let's, this is just making it harder for Tom to edit. So we should just end it. That's everything, I think, right?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Thank you all for being here. I super appreciate it. We're going to give it 100% next week. I fucking promise you.
Till July. We legitimately have everything till July mapped out. So, yeah, I think we just needed a buffer week. But, yeah, let's... the favor has been called in, and technically, this has been an episode of Reminiscent. Thanks for listening. Love you, Tom.
Love you too, man. Bye. Hey everyone, thank you for sticking with us through this difficult episode. I think Pat did a really good job, though. I can't thank him enough for really kind of filling in and just letting me kind of phone it in this episode. I really struggled to get any of the Fight Club references in the Take It Back Sunday episode, but that's coming next week. So make sure you're subscribed to the show and hit us up on Twitter @_reminiscentfm. We'll hit you next week with a better episode, I promise. I love you all. Bye.